In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the lessons I've learned on building a business at $300,000 per month, with our best month ever being $450,000, so that you can go from 0 deals to getting your first deal in as little as the next 90 days. Normally, my job is to help people go from $20K a month to over $100,000 per month. And here's a few of our clients that have had really good results in our program, right? It blows my mind, and I'm beyond blessed to have made this kind of impact on people's lives. But I feel like I've been doing a disservice to all the people who follow me that have yet to do their first deal. So if that's you watching this, you trying to do your first couple of deals, then I want you to know in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what you need to do in order to knock out your first few deals. And this is a strategy that I don't hear that many people talking about. Through my journey, just crossing paths at masterminds or events or whatever, I've helped several people get their first deal by having one conversation with them. The story that sticks out to me the most was when I was at a Denver real estate event, and I actually met an 18-year-old who had just graduated high school, who just wanted to stop doing his blue collar job because, again, blue collar labor does suck. I did it from when I was 14 to when I was 19, so I can attest. And all he wanted to do was quit his job. And he told me he was going to get his realtor license because that was what plan he had. So obviously he asked me some questions about it, like, what would you recommend? And I'm not a licensed realtor, so I just told him what I did, right? So I had a wholesale company and we grew it to multiple 7 figures per year. And I just share with him my story. And so there must have been some bit of inspiration from my story that he heard that basically wanted him to figure out how he was able to do what I did through wholesale real estate. So me and this kid sat down for about an hour, and I just basically told him everything that I'm about to tell you guys. After about 3 months of us leaving that event, he texted me on Instagram and basically said, "Hey, I closed my first $15,000. Thank you. I'm quitting my job." I just asked him, I said, "Hey man, what did you do that allowed you to get that kind of result?" And he literally just responded and said, "I did exactly what you told me to do." And honestly, this made me feel better than anything else in my entire life. It was just such a cool experience to be able to change someone's life with just one conversation. And so that's why I'm making this video, because I want to be able to have the opportunity to do the same for you guys. And so I told that story just to basically say that this strategy does work, and that if you have $500 to $1,000, then you can get your first deal in the next 3 months as well, if you're willing to put the work in, that is, of course. This journey will not be easy, and this will probably be one of the hardest things you've ever done in your life. I say this not to scare you, but to set a good expectation for you to know what to expect. So if you're in a position where you don't know what to do, there's a great quote that basically says that the pain of your current situation must be greater than the pain of taking action in order for action to be taken. So it basically means that whatever you're feeling right now has to be worse than putting the extra work in after your 9 to 5 or working 15 hours a day or whatever it might be, has to be worse than doing that activity, right? So let's get into it. How do we get our first deal? At the core of it, to be successful in real estate wholesaling, you just have to have sales skills. If you have sales skills, you will be successful. And that's why I believe everyone has to cold call to their first deal. So from a high level, here's the process that you need to take in order to get your first deal. You're going to cold call sellers, basically finding out if they truly want to sell their property. And if they do, you're going to set them up with a time later the same day that you talked to them initially to get an offer for their property. And then you're just going to repeat that over and over and over and over again until someone says yes and then signs a contract to sell you their house. So you literally need 3 skills in order to execute the strategy. You know how to cold call, you know how to give an offer, you need to know how to comp properties so you know what price to offer sellers. So this video is designed to teach you those 3 skills, and I've even created a Google Drive folder basically outlining every single thing that you need to know. So we have contracts so that you can get these things signed. We have the diagnosis call, which is going to be like your cold call script process. We have our offer call recordings, which is us giving feedback on live sales calls, doing live sales calls, all of the above. This is all right here so you can drown in good sales calls. We have all of our scripts so that you can copy and replicate exactly our process into your own business. We have our comping sheet, which allows us to understand what's a comp. And we even have an MAO calculator, which allows you to understand exactly what price you can pay for these properties without having to think about it. You just plug in the numbers and it spits out the value you need to offer. So all this is going to be down below in the description of this video. So I want you guys to make sure you take full advantage of it. And so I know you're probably thinking, Chandler, how do I dispo these deals? Because once you get a contract, the way that wholesaling works is you have to sell it to someone else so that you make the middle, right? Well, in my opinion, if you understand how to find good deals, you are going to sell them in 5 seconds because good deals fly off the shelves. The skill that you need to develop is the skill to go and put together deals that other people want to be a part of. And that's how you're going to make money. That's the highest value skill you can build. And if for whatever reason you can't monetize this deal, for whatever reason it might be, just send me a DM on Instagram and I will personally partner with you on this property to make sure that you make money. And again, the deal is the hardest thing to find. So we need to spend 100% of our energy, effort, and focus on getting as many deals as we possibly can, because that's how we're going to make make the most money. And that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to escape the 9 to 5, escape the rat race, build our bank account, and make as much money as possible, right? So here's the numbers that you need to hit in order to get your first deal, in my opinion. You need to generate 150 leads, and then you need to give 30 final offers to sellers. And these are not offers where you give a seller some range. This is an offer where you're saying, this is my price that I'm willing to pay for your property. That's it. That's an offer. All a lead is just someone who's interested in selling at any level. So it's not that they have to be motivated, it's just that they have any interest in selling. So with all that out of the way, let's get into actually diving in how we're going to start generating these leads so that you can build the machine that will eventually work for you. And the way that we're going to do that is through cold calling, because that is the skill you have to learn. You have to learn the skill of talking to sellers. It's most important. It's a non-negotiable in this game. And the steps to mastering that skill of talking to sellers is going to come from reviewing every single phone call you ever have with the seller. So what did you do good? What did you do bad? And what am I going to do next time? So you know what to double down on and you know what to stop doing. If you do this every single time you have a conversation, you're going to learn so fast that within the first 100 people you talk to, you're probably going to be pretty dang good at the end of that. But let's set up cold calling so that you can even start talking to sellers. So you're going to want to go and buy a cold call dialer because it's going to make you way more efficient. So go to readymode.com or go to calltools.com and set up one of these two systems. It's going to cost you about $150 a month, but you'll be able to call 3 people at a time, really maximizing your efficiency. So once you've got your cold call system set up, you're going to go to kindskiptracing.com, which will basically allow you to get data for very cheap. So now we have phone numbers to call people. The data you want to get is owner occupied data, who these people have owned the property for 7 years or more, and there's no LLCs involved. You're going to want to get that for the best city that you want to be in. So, for example, we started locally just where we knew that the market was hot, and that's kind of how we decided to do it. So you can do it wherever, however you want, and just pick a market and then go for it. So basically, you're going to spend $300 on the data. You're going to spend about $150 a month on the dialer, which is $450 to set up and $150 a month reoccurring. Now that you have the list, you need to plug it into your dialer, and then you're just going to call through this list multiple times. The one metric you want to track to see how efficient you're being is called hours worked per lead. So if you spend 2 hours calling and you get 1 lead, that means you have 2 hours worked per lead. That's kind of the rough metric you want to be shooting for to know if you're doing a good job generating leads at an efficient rate. So it means if you cold call for 8 hours, you should get 4 leads. And again, a lead is just someone who has any level of interest in selling their property. Once your hours worked per lead is greater than 4 hours per lead, then you basically need to either skip trace all the wrong numbers and no contacts, the people you never talked to, with a new skip tracer like batch skip tracing that's like 10 to 15 cents per record, or just go and buy another 10,000 list of the same criteria from Kind Skip Tracing as well. 2 keys on making sure your dialer is set up the right way is you want to make sure that your abandonment rate is below 10%. This basically means that when you call from 3 lines, means you're calling 3 sellers at once and 2 people pick up, you can only talk to 1, so it's going to just abandon the other person. So you want to make sure you're not abandoning too many people, and to control that, you're just going to turn the amount of lines per dialer up or down. So if your abandonment rate is like 0, then turn your lines per dialer up. If your abandonment rate is like 50%, then turn it down. The next thing is make sure your outbound phone numbers are the similar local area codes that you're actually calling for. So for example, in Georgia, one of the area codes is 770. So just make sure that I'm calling from a 770 number. Finally, you're going to get a lot of inbound phone calls because people just always return calls. That's just how it works. So within the dialer, you should be able to set up what's called an IVR, which just means that whenever someone calls you, it says, hey, please press 1 if you're interested in selling your property. And that means they dial through to you and you can answer it. Or it says, please press 2 if you want to be added to our do not call list. And it automatically adds it to the do not call list so that you don't waste your time answering people who don't want to talk to you. So we got a cold call strategy fully set up. Let's go into what we're going to actually say on the phones so that you don't just come in completely unprepared, because that happens. And you will mess up, so don't worry about it. So again, all these sheets are in the actual Google Drive, and I'm just going to show you how to get there. But the first script we're going to want is called the diagnosis script. So let me click on this. Basically right here, it's going to start with an intro. We're going to then go to setting expectations. We're going to then confirm the property condition. We're going to confirm the timeline. We're going to confirm roadblocks. And then we're going to go into motivation, price, and then set the appointment, right? So let's go through the script, right? So the way we start this is, hey, John, it's Chandler. And they're going to say, yes, it's Chandler. I've been trying to reach the owner of 123 Main Street. You're probably not the owner. You're going to say it like that because you're like, who is this? And they're going to be like, I've never heard that before. They're like, oh, actually, I am the owner. Okay, great. I'm just calling you because we're looking to buy properties in your area. You probably wouldn't be interested in selling your property on 123 Main Street. And if they are like, oh, yeah, I am interested, just go to setting expectations right here. If they aren't interested, then basically we're going to say, oh, okay, would there be a time in the future where you'd even consider selling your property? No, there's not. Okay, I totally understand that. Just so you know, we give a $2,000 referral fee to anyone who sends a property that we end up buying. I assume you're probably not interested in that. Just something like that, right? You're just going to go into the next call, disqualify them. They're like, nope, get off the phone. Boom. Okay, hang up. 30 seconds, gone. So once I say they're yes, that they're interested in selling, that's great. I'm working with a private investor who's looking to buy properties out of city XYZ. They do buy them all cash as is with no closing costs. I just need to ask you a few questions about your property and situation just to find out if we're a good fit to work together or not. Sound fair? And then they're going to say, yeah, it's fine. Okay. So basically, can you tell me just bedrooms and baths? I see it's 3-2. Is that correct? Okay, great. Has there been any remodeling to the kitchen or bathroom in the last 5 to 8 years? Oh, granite countertops, or oh no, there's not been anything. Okay, great. You just want to get all this information. I'm not going to go through these questions, but basically, age of the roof, HVAC. Has there been any recent updates done to the property that I should know about? Are you currently living in the property, tenant occupied or vacant? Are there any repairs needed to the property? If tenant occupied, asks at least month to month. Timeline. If we agreed on a price today, this is an important piece. So now we transition from condition to timeline. So great. So if we agreed on a price today, how soon were you looking to start the process of selling your home? And this is a big difference. Start the process of selling your home versus sell your home. They might want to sell their home in 90 days, but they might be okay with starting the process today, which means that they're more ready to get this over with, and there's probably more motivation there, right? Example, less than 30 days, 2 to 3 months, 60 plus, something like that, right? Okay, gotcha. So you're looking to start the selling process in the next 30 days. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Is there anyone who has any input on the decision to sell this property? Gotcha. No, it's just you. Okay. But so no one has any veto power to stop you from selling? No one does. Or, oh, you need to talk to your wife. Okay, great. We just want to know this for future pacing to understand if there's anyone else who they're talking to about selling their property, right? Gotcha. So I know we've been on the phone for a couple minutes now, and what even had you looking to sell the property? If there is no motivation, basically, okay, other than us calling you probably don't have any reason to sell. Nope. Okay, go to price. Gotcha. So we go to price. So if they do have motivation and basically they're like, yeah, I need to downsize my house. Okay, how long have you been thinking about that? What we need to do here is we need to dive deeper into their reason for why they want to sell it. What's their problem? What's the impact of that problem getting solved? What's their picture for perfect scenario? Just understanding what's going on, right? So it seems like this has been going on for a while. It feels like this has been tough for you. Something like that. How long has this been going on? How long have you been thinking about this? Can you tell me more about that? What have you tried doing about it? When you say blank, what do you mean by that? When you say the tenant has been a pain, what do you mean by that? How long have you been thinking about this? Blah, blah, blah. All these different things. Just want to practice asking questions. So we want to ask at least 2 to 3 pain point questions on a call to dive deeper into the pain. If they obviously have no pain and they won't give you anything, then we're just going to go straight to price like we would do next. So once we move from motivation, we're going to just transition into price. So it just starts like this. Okay. So, how much were you looking to get for the property? Gotcha. And, they're going to say, yes, I want this amount of money. If they say, I want this amount of money, then we're going to just basically move on to our price anchor, which is next. If they basically say no, then we're going to move on to this. Gotcha. So probably don't even have a range you'd want to get. No, I don't. You guys called me, blah, 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 whatever it is. You just want to mirror this. So an example of a mirror would be, gotcha. Make you an offer because we called you. And it sounds like you don't have any asking price in mind. And then they're going to double down and say no. They might say yes, might open a conversation, but they're probably going to say no. Okay, gotcha. So basically after the price, once we move on, if they have a price, if they don't, we're going to use the price anchor to basically get their lowest number out of them and to get their real better asking price, or just to get an asking price out of them in general. Because if they say no 2 times, gotcha, you don't have a range you get, and they say no, then us just throwing out a low ass number is going to get their number out of them. So something we do is basically say, okay, so I do just want to let you know, I see other investors, and keep in mind, this is by no means our offer, but other investors are buying properties similar to yours at 40 to 50% of Zillow value. Again, this is not our offer. This is just what I see other investors are buying properties for cash at. What would you say if one of them were to offer you something like that? They would probably, so then we have 2 outcomes really. Long story short, 40 to 50%, let me just explain this, 40 to 50% of Zillow value. If it's $100,000, it means $40 to $50,000. If it's $200,000, it means $80 to $100,000. And that's just scales up, right? So you're just giving them a low offer, right? So let's say they say way too low or hell no. Again, like I said, that's not our offer. That's just what other investors are buying properties at. What were you, hoping at least I was going to say, and then get their number out of them, right? Boom. If they respond, yes, that would work. Basically, we want to set them up for an appointment right away. Basically get them on the phone. So this is set up if you have an acquisition person that you're sending it to, but okay, Mr. Seller, I do think that we would be a great fit to work together. Obviously, like you want to like push them to, you don't want to just immediately say like their price is too low. So you'd say something something like, okay, gotcha, that makes sense. So that number does work for you. Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. Well, like that's really all I have for you here. Like I got all the information I need. And then, I do think that we would be a good fit together given your, the property and your circumstance, that we can really help you out. With that being said, set up the time for as soon as possible. Do you have an extra 5 or 10 minutes where I could go and give you the number that the finance property qualifies your property for, the offer that we would, purchase your property at? Do you have, and then like, they're like, yeah, I do have time. What time are you available? Well, okay, great. I just need to go and run this by my manager. It takes me 30 minutes to run comps. Don't say that. It takes me 30 minutes for us to run our numbers and get that back to you. So like I give you a call back in 30 minutes. If you can do it faster, and God willing, once you practice the time, just put them on hold for 5 minutes. Be like, hey, are you in a position where I can just put you on hold for 5 minutes so that I can my finance manager's right over here. I can just go and run this by him and basically just get you the number that we would purchase your property at. And then boom, that's it. Is that okay? Great. So basically once they give us their price, we just want to confirm that that is their best price, because this allows us to further understand if there is more motivation there. So basically, gotcha. Thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate it. I do have to ask, is that the best that you can do? I just want to make sure that when I present this number to my finance department, that it will have the best chance of being accepted. If they say yes, then go to next call expectations. If they say no, gotcha. Okay. Because yes, like meaning that's the lowest they can do. If they say no, I can do better. Gotcha. What were you thinking? And then just see what they say. If they drop their price and have any motivation, even if they have no motivation, that price is below market value, they have a lot of motivation. It's just hidden. You didn't get into it. So you definitely want to push that to it being an appointment. If they're dropping consistently, that means that they have a lot of motivation. It might just be hidden. So if someone is a fit, what would that be? And what is it if they're not a fit? So if they're not a fit for an offer, it basically just means that they don't have any reason to sell. There's no reason to sell. Their price is way too high. If they are a fit, it means they have a reason to sell. That could be really anything, or they have a discounted price. One of the two. So if they're not a fit, okay, I believe that's all the information I need. I don't think we're a fit. I think your best bet is to get the highest price list of the realtor, hold on to the property. We will be following up in X amount of days. You can read all this, right? Doesn't matter. If we are a fit, meaning that we're going to give them an offer, okay, great. I believe I have all the information I need right now. That being said, I do believe that we're a great fit to work together. I would love to get you an offer on your property. I just need to send this to finance, which takes about 30 minutes. Are you available then for a conversation in 30 minutes from now? If not 30 minutes from now, okay. Are you available tonight from this time or this time, or at this time or this time? And if they're like, yes, I am. Okay, great. All I ask is that, you're just able to make a confident yes or no decision. And again, no is perfectly okay. Also, if there's any other individuals, like you mentioned, your wife had input on the sale of the property, she needs to be on the call as well. So is she available at that time? Great, she is. Okay, if everything looks good, you guys do like the offer that we're able to make you guys, are you guys going to be in a position to go over agreement with me then? Boom, good, you are. Okay, if they ask more information about the website, if you would like, I can share our website with you where you can see some testimonials on the thing if they want it, right? Boom. If they're not available, just go into all this kind of stuff. Are you available? When are you available? What day? Okay, what times? This time or this time? Just set it up, right? You can figure out times with someone, right? But you always want to give them 2 offers. And that's pretty much the general gist, right? So we're going to basically qualify them up. It's called a diagnosis call. Figure out if they're a good fit or not to work with us. And of course, if they are a good fit, we are going to give them an offer. So there's one other thing I'll show you. There's a diagnosis objection list. And this basically just like, what are all the objections that we have? And this has recordings of us overcoming them, all kinds of stuff. So like seller refusing to give us the price they're looking for, seller saying our anchor offer is too low, seller needs 60, 90 days because they have a lot of stuff and they don't want to be rushed on moving out. Whatever it is, there's a ton of different ones. This is what we train our team on. So you guys have access to all of this stuff. This is great training for doing diagnosis calls, right? Setting appointments. So from there, let's move to the offer call. So basically with the offer call script, we just have a basic intro. Then what we do is we set the stage for how this is going to work. This call is going to work. We address any roadblocks, basically making sure everyone's there. We restate the motivation. We want to kind of go in here. We want to dive in here for a long time and really understand what's actually going on. Then we set up the offer. And then once we do that, we give the offer, we do all that. We handle the post-offer objections, which is all the way down in here. Let's get into the script. And again, your offer call should try to last somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes before you give the offer is generally a good amount of time. If you can go longer and you can build more, go deeper into pain, it can't just be like you talking about football and stuff, but if you can go more into their situation, like how you can help and getting them to their desired end state, that's going to be what you ultimately want to do and how you want to focus this call. So you got to make sure on the diagnosis call, you don't go too deep into pain. You just want to overview it and make sure it's there. So intro, just, hey, you told me, we had a call right now, basically, so I can, does it still work for you? Blah, 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 whatever. So let's set stage. Basically, thanks for taking my call. call. I know you had a lot of other important things going on, so I really appreciate this. Just to get into this call, I just wanted to touch on, what it looks like if you do decide to work with us. And that's not a question, so we can remove a question mark. If you do decide that you'd like to move forward with us at the end of this call, then I'll just send over our written agreement to your email, and we would both just go through that. Are you currently in a position to be able to do that? Basically, if they're not in a position to go over the contract and do all that kind of stuff in the agreement, we're just going to basically say, okay, I understand. When would be a better time for us to talk? And that way we can do everything at once. Basically, we're just setting it up to where we can get through their objection of why they don't want to make a decision on this call. And so we don't waste their time or we don't waste our time, right? So basically, we're going to address their concerns there and just basically saying like, hey, look, I can't control that this is company policy, but like the main thing I just want to ask for is like at the end of our conversation is that you can give me a confident yes or no. And if it's a no, like that's perfectly fine. And then just pause, let them answer and say whatever they're going to say. Okay, cool. It's company policy. I see that. Like I can give you a yes or no if I want to do it, but I need to read the contract or I need to do this or I need to do that. Okay, gotcha. Well, we do read the contract together at the end of the call and like we can go at your pace and I just kind of let you read it and I just sit there. And like, would that be unreasonable or would that work for you? That's how we kind of would overcome that objection. Blah, blah, blah. Let's just let them answer whatever. Let's just move on. So if they are in a position to do just this, then what we want to do, if they're in a position to move forward, then we're going to say this still. Okay, I just want a yes or no. And then let them answer. And they're like, yeah, that's fair. Okay. And with that being said, anything other than a yes, I just have to assume it's a no. And that's it. So let's move on. So once we've basically set the stage for how this works, we let them know that we want to make a decision at the end of the call. And that's what we're here to do. Because what we can do is at the end of the call, when they don't want to make a decision, we can tie back to that. Like, hey, look, we talked about it. And like you had told me that you were okay with making a decision. You guys were in a position to do that. And then we can talk about that and have a deeper conversation. So let's address the roadblocks. Okay, gotcha. I know you had said that your wife had input on this decision. Are they present with us right now? If they are, great. Great. Nice to meet you, whatever, pleasantries. Okay, let's just say in a perfect world, get her name as well. Let's just say in a perfect world, we agree on a price and the agreement looks good. What would happen next? What would be the next steps for you? And then boom, go into it. There's a list of objections here as well, so that you can go through that entire list. But basically, we're just getting them right here to say that I would sign an agreement. Or they're going to ask, well, what happens next if that happens? Oh yeah, we just put an agreement in place and we make sure we go over it kind of like I mentioned earlier. Okay, cool. We're again just getting their commitments to doing these things at the end of the call so that we can close them on this conversation. So let's get into the motivations. This is going to be the most important piece. So at this point, you should have built a little bit of rapport, talked about some random things. If you have anything in common, dove into it a little bit. You don't need to go too deep, but we want to go into motivation super deep so that we can understand what they're doing, where they're at, and where they want to go. I know when we spoke a little bit earlier, you were feeling, struggling, etc. Insert motivation. So I know a little bit earlier you had told me that you were struggling with this tenant situation. I just need a little bit more clarity on that so I can better understand your situation. Boom, right there they're gonna be like, well, they might ask what you want to know and just like, just be like, well, I just like how long has this been going on? What's the tenant done? Is the house trashed? This kind of stuff, right? And then just open it up, let them start splurting out all those things. And then now we want to get into the impact questions, right? So dang, like man, that's crazy. They're just destroying the house. That's unbelievable. Man, how long has that been going on? Man, they've been doing it for like a couple years. So that's called a mirror. And a mirror the last couple words in the sentence, a couple years. Then he's going to go on and elaborate whatever it is. That must be making a pretty big impact on the cash flow of this property. Yeah, I've just been losing money over and over and over again. Gotcha. So kind of like with the sale of this property, what were you hoping to accomplish? And then just, we just want to dive into all the story, right? I want to accomplish X, Y, Z. Okay. And then like, is there any way you can do that without selling the property? No, I got to sell the property. I have to do it. So you tied them into selling the property. Then just move through all of those different things, asking impact questions to get them to state what they're feeling, what they're running away from, what problem they're trying to solve, so that we now understand what they're solving. And then we want to restate it to them. So we want to understand and then restate. Gotcha. So it sounds like what's going on is that this tenant's been destroying your house for quite a while, and it's causing really big issues in the cash flow of the property where it's definitely losing money every month, which is basically putting you in a situation where you need to get rid of it and take care of your equity now, because like cash flow is just becoming a major issue or whatever it is, right? And you just want to restate their pain and their desired end state. Gotcha. And so once we can take care of that, this will allow you to go get XYZ outcome you want. Cool. Now that they know that you understand them, they feel like their problem's almost already being solved. That's what we want them to feel. So let's set the offer up. Basically, okay, thank you for all that. So like now, I do appreciate you telling me all that. Let's get into what your property qualified for. So keep in mind that this is what you walk away with in your pocket minus your mortgage and prorated taxes, which is just the state of whatever state you're in. state of Georgia thing. You do not pay any closing costs. You don't pay any realtor commissions. Property will be sold as is, which means you do not repair it and you do not need to do any cleaning. And like, of course, like I had mentioned before, this is going to get rid of your tenant and you will be able to take care of all of that. You don't have to worry about it. It's going to blah, 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 solve your problem, whatever. Insert that. And so with that being said, your property qualified for 250,370, and then just wait till they talk. Don't say anything, just wait. So they're going to come in, say like, that's way too low, that's whatever. Usually it's going to be like, there's no way, or that's too low, because our first offer should be quite low. It should almost get like yeah, there's no way answer. So yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Just off the record, what were you hoping for at least? And then they basically are going to say like, well, I really needed that $200,000 I told you about. Gotcha. Yeah. And like, let's say in this scenario, $200,000 is above your max allowable offer. You can only offer them 180. Let's just say that's the scenario for simplicity. Gotcha. So I'm gonna be honest, like, we may not be the best fit. What do you think we should do? Because we're at that 130 or whatever number it is, right? So they're going to say whatever they're going to say. Then we're going to, hit basically a couple more price reductions. Gotcha. So like the only thing we can do is we can come up in price. Okay. So like, I definitely can't come up to 200, and we're going to step up and do a micro step. So even if, for somehow we were able to come up, insert a number 5, 10K more than what your first offer is, because it should be that much lower. It should be about $30,000 to $40,000 lower than your MAO. So even if we were able to come up to 140, that just probably wouldn't be enough, would it? Nope, it went the 200, or is really important to me, or like I would be able to do a little bit more, like whatever it is. Got it. Okay, I understand. So 140 doesn't work. Doesn't make any sense. Even if like we were able to edge up closer to like 160, 170, would that even like get us in the ballpark? And then basically we're going to negotiate from there, because like when you say that, we're going to open up a conversation and we're going to talk about it and all these different things. You have to go, and you can't just get that number approved. You have to get it approved by your finance department. Always remember that finance department is a third party. It has to be approved by everything. Got it. So then basically once we were our MAO again was 180, we came at 160, 170 range. Gotcha. So it just seems like the whatever number, the $200,000 is really important to you. And if you're wholesaling, just normally this is where you're going to say the 180 is my absolute max. So cash offer 180. Look, that number, $200,000, I get it. It's really important to you. That's just the absolute best you can do, because you got to walk away with XYZ. You got to do whatever. I mean, like, and this is if you're wholesaling normally. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I don't think, like, looking at the way this property is, looking at what all needs to be done to it, and that we have to take over the tenants, like, I just don't see us being able to come up. The $200,000 I get is important to you. There's just no way that we can do that. And again, this is if you're just basically doing it the old wholesale way, where you're not coming up and doing access, and you just have to stick to your number. Like, there's just no way that we're going to be able to come up to that. Like, I have to go back and see what the best we can do, but I'm pretty sure if I go back to the finance team, like, they're just not going to come up with $200,000. What happens if I go back to them and they just come back, even let's call it 170, 175? Like, what happens then? And then basically he's going to tell you what happens, and then you have to do what you got to do. Okay, let me go talk to the finance team and see what we can do. And then come back at your MAO or come back at whatever price and negotiate from there. And that's the best you can do, right? Now, let's say that you do want to do the MLS strategy, which means that you're going to wholesale on the MLS, then what we can basically say is, like, we have another MAO that's higher than our wholesale MAO. And I'll show you this in the calculator. But if someone, typically it's about $40,000 more. So let's say our MAO is 180. Typically our MLS MAO is 220. So basically we can't pay them $200,000. So gotcha. So it does seem like that 200, this is MLS version. So this is MLS version. So gotcha. So this $200,000 does seem pretty important to you. There is a way that I can possibly get that for you. I've seen my finance department come up in the past if you were able to be flexible with me on the additional access to the property. So basically, once we've come up in our price and told them that we can do access, they're going to basically ask, what do you mean by additional access? And you can pick one of the two. I'll just read one of them. We would just need about 4 1-hour time slots per week within our due diligence period to allow some of our financial partners and retail investors who are accompanied by agents just to come out and walk the property. Who are these retail investors? These retail investors are people who we partner with on projects like this, just when the numbers are stretched for us. And this just, because they have different exit strategies, it allows them to pay more money for property. properties. Okay. Then they're basically like, well, why do you need, this could be in any order, but our retail investors and financial partners who are accompanied by agents, that way we can exercise another option of ours just to partner with these guys to give you the price that you ultimately wanted, which was that $200,000. Okay. What if retail investors do not like the property? Well, the agreement would just work between you and our company, and it has nothing to do with the retail investors we work with. Our finance department would never allow me to make an offer that they weren't confident that we could execute on. The only times we've ever had problems with this have been instances where we've in the past where the seller describes the property in one condition, and honestly just it's not even close to that condition when we go out there. We've had people tell us the property's basically renovated and then we go out there and it's burned down. So that happens, but that's the only scenario. Downplay it. That's really it. The next piece, this is the access piece, right? So if they're like, yeah, I like that, then go to the contract. If they basically say no to the access, then we're going to tell them like, okay, hey, we can still work together without the additional access, but our offer is going to be at the $180,000 that we talked about earlier. We can close in your time frame and state any other terms they had. Basically, that's it. So we're just going to talk about between the two, negotiate between the two, and that's that. All right. So if they do accept the offer, it's just all right, perfect, congrats. So I just need the email to send the agreement to so that we can go over it together. They do not accept it, pretty much just straightforward. Well, Mr. Seller, I do appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. Sorry we couldn't get you what you're looking for. Please just reach out to me if anything changes. And good luck with some whatever report it is, right? That's what I like to do. I obviously gave you guys a script and the script reading with some different caveats and things that might change. But the most important piece is there's a ton of objections here that you can go through and read. And we have a whole nother objection sheet. We also have a contract call that is going to happen that this gets transitioned to if they get an offer. So I'm going to go through that. We're going to do that on the same call because we want to make sure the contract gets signed. You don't just send out DocuSigns that don't get signed, right? So we want to make sure that if we give an offer and we get a verbal, we get a signed agreement. So basically what we're going to move towards is going to the contract call, but I want to make sure that you guys really understand and get this. So that's why on the offer call recordings with feedback folder, I have all these different calls with feedback where we're coaching our team. And then also just like where they're calls that we just recorded, right? So a lot of these are call reviews and they will give you a lot of really good insight on what you can do to make your calls better in advanced scenarios to overcome objections. So just listen to these. There's hours and hours and hours of calls. So basically let's go into the contract call. And again, this script is in there. So I'm actually not going to really go through it, but I do want to make a couple key notes. So on our contract, we have two things that basically work. Is one, we have a memorandum, a clause in there that allows us to file a memo for whatever reason a seller ghosts us. And we also have the right to list on the MLS, which this just allows us to expose the property to our retail investors. And this is how we were able to get you the extra, come up to your $240,000 price point. That's pretty much it. And then there's just some basic stuff where we set expectations for our next conversations and etc. And then this is like a high level contract call script. And there's a call guide in here that you can go through that will give you a little bit more details of how the call should take place. And this is like reading the script, and this is like an exact guide for how to do it. So that's really it. And hopefully that helps a lot. Contract call is really not too complex. If they ever question anything about listing it and you're listing it, then just refer back. This is what allows us to bring those retail investors out to the property. And you want to make sure you read the whole contract to them so that they understand it. And all of the things that we say for each section is abbreviated in here so that you can pair our contract, which is right here on contracts, our purchase and sale contract MLS strategy. And then I also made a simple one too, where it removes all that stuff, but it pairs all this contract with the script. So you have all that stuff in here. So the most important thing that you continue to always do if you want to be successful in any business that you start is you have to always be learning. So this means watch every single sales YouTube video you can possibly find. There's tons of great people out there. You need to go to as many local real estate events as you possibly can. They're free. Find them on Facebook groups. So Atlanta is Atlanta Real Estate Meetup or Real Estate Event or something like that. It's the Facebook group. And they host it every month. So you can go for free. Or you can meet other wholesalers, flippers, and realtors who are all doing the business so that you can build more relationships and understand how to actually build and do this business. Because if you have other relationships with other wholesalers, you guys can role play together, you can review each other's calls, you can talk together, you can send deals to each other, whatever it is, you're just going to learn this business together. And I remember when we were doing it, we came up with a lot of people through the same real estate group. So it's actually really powerful to meet realtors at these events because they will give you MLS access, which allows you to have much more accurate comping so that your pricing on properties is better. So I'm going to be comping on MLS. So you'll see the difference with that in Zillow once you start doing it. Also, you should become friends with as many flippers as you can because one, it gives you an extra exit strategy to leverage properties that are really good fix and flips or ones you should take down because you can make $60K 70K instead of 20K on a wholesale. Plus, if you do multiple deals and partners with these flippers, and this is exactly what we did, is we were able to get a private money lender that gave us a huge leg up in this business so that we could take properties down and make significantly amount more money on deals that otherwise would be small. And so like if you have made it to this point in the video and these scripts you're downloading, you're listening to sales calls, you will get your deal in the next 90 days because you're going to take action and you're going to make it happen. But before we do that, I need to teach you the way that we comp. And this way is a little bit different. It's geared towards the MLS strategy. And like to be honest, like if you're going to learn to wholesale, you should wholesale with the MLS method because it allows you to overcome the biggest objection, which is price. So why not do it when you're first beginning? It's the same thing, just with a couple small different tweaks. Let's get into this comping, and I'm going to comp a few properties live for you just so you can really see how it's done. Most of you probably have comp before because if you've ever bought stuff and sold it on like Facebook Marketplace or eBay, if you bought a car, you probably understand like what if you got ripped off or not by the salesman because you ran comps on the car. All the comping is for real estate is just knowing what other properties that are very similar to yours are selling for. And that's all we're optimizing for. All right, guys, so welcome to comping. So basically a comp is just a similar property to ours that sold or is pending and about to sell. So basically here's how we want to comp. One, we want to start with a 0.25 radius, 0.25 mile radius, last 90 days sold or pending properties. Then what we're going to do is if we have no comparable properties there, we want to move to a 0.5 radius, last 90 days sold or pending. And then maximum is 0.5 radius, last 180 days sold. Let me correct that. Or pending. If you're in a very rural area, you might go to 1 to 2 miles if there's like no sales at all. Most people, this is going to be the criteria. A comp is going to be something that is plus or minus 300 square foot and then must be within the same 10 years of construction. So 10 years either way. Same stories and build types. So 2 stories, 1 story. Is it a contemporary home or a brick home? And then a similar neighborhood is like the ideal, or same neighborhood. Same neighborhood's best, not always happens, right? If it's not a perfect comp, here's some rough rules of thumb, and it's going to be a little bit different for every market, but this is generally where you can start, is $20,000 plus or minus for a bedroom, plus or minus $10,000 for a bathroom, plus or minus $10,000 for a pool, plus or minus 2.5% for backing any traffic or commercial, so main highways or whatever, and plus or minus 5% for any frontage of traffic commercial. This has got to be very busy roads, right? These are rough rules of thumb. They're not exact. So with a basement, appraisers will only give you about half the value. So it's $2,000 square foot house above ground sold for $200 per square. It's 400K. A 1,500 square foot above ground and 500 square foot below ground is only going to be about $200 a square for the 1,500 square feet and $100 a square for the 500 square feet. So basically that'd be like $350. Does that make sense? That's roughly the math on what appraisers will do. So basements are half the value of normal upstairs. If there's a garage, add or take away about 10 grand. If there's a carport, add or take away about 5 grand. So general rehab estimations, and this is different for every market. If you're in California or somewhere else, it's going to be a lot more. This is why we want to meet rehabbers. It's going to be very important. Paint and carpet, just very basic stuff. So about $15 a square. Full interior cosmetics, that means like paint, carpet, maybe cabinets, just some very basic cosmetic stuff. $25 a square. If you're doing roofing, siding, etc., and a full interior cosmetic, $35 a square. If you're going to do a gut and an exterior, so that means everything needs to be new bathrooms, maybe getting the subfloor, you're pushing $50 a square. And then if you're really rehabbing, it's going to be more. But again, this is just why it's important to, 1, it's experience, and 2, know some flippers so you can get some understanding of what rehabs cost. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take some market values of a couple properties that we have under contract. So we're going to start with this property, 1578 Cherry Hill Road in Conyers, Georgia. This is one we currently have under contract and we are selling. And here are some pictures. So we're starting with pictures. You don't always start with pictures. You might not have them, might have them. It just depends on your deal. But it is easiest to understand this comparable when you're comparing subject property to other property. It's very easy to use pictures to compare. So let's just take a look at it. We have a nice, decent deck. It's a decent house on the outside, right? The inside is a little bit weird. It's like a basement, it looks like. Yeah, definitely a basement. So it's not super nice. Definitely interesting. All this stuff looks okay. We are having not a super nice bathroom, but it's not terrible. It can be cleaned up. Definitely not modern. The flooring is a little bit like torn up. Looks like they put some type of flooring over this other stuff. Other bedrooms, yada yada yada, needs work, needs new carpet. It's very cosmetic. This place needs to clean up and it's cosmetic. But let's get into basically running some comps. So I put it in the MLFs. I have residential detached. That's just not townhomes, basically. It means like normal homes. Pending, doesn't matter the day frame. Closed, I'm going to go 90 days and I'm in a quarter-mile radius here. So I'm going to go and look at the map. The one thing I will say is on this one, we contracted a while ago. So if we need to go back further, we might do that. But let's just walk through the general thesis here is we know ours is in as-is condition, and we know that it looks like this, right? So it's a contemporary home. So this one is 1,200 square foot. Ours was 1,200 as well, basically. And this one just sold for $255, 33 days on market, FHA buyer. So if you're selling it cash, you got to assume that this is not necessarily a perfect comp for cash, but on the MLS this is how we're looking at it. We want to determine market value. So this is renovated and it's nice. So we know our house, this is like closer to ARV. This is not going to be our house. So since there's nothing else, I'm going to just expand this to 0.5. So let's see what else we got here. We got another 3.2. It's a little bit bigger, but it's still within 300 square feet. It's definitely an ugly house and as is. So definitely not a nice house. We got to look down here, 78 days on market. So that's a little bit too long. It's a little bit too long for us. We're looking for 15 days on market. It's kind of the ideal. And generally speaking, for each day on market, you're too high. But this is a good comp. Not build style wise, but it's a decent comp. It's better than what we had. But general rule of thumb is like per day on market, you can usually remove about $1,000 from the listing price, give or take, right? So to sell our property, it wouldn't be actually about 1,000. It'd probably be about 20K off this one. That's just a feel number from doing it so many times. But I want to change the criteria back to 180 days because now that we went out to half mile, I want to basically expand back. So I like these comps a little bit more. I have some other price points. So I know 185 actually looks like it's a lower price because I know 240 range is ARV. So I can probably already just assume this one's cleaned up just to double check. 235 is nice, right? And then let's look at 185. This is probably going to be an as-is property. I don't actually know these comps, but yeah, so this is basically like super as-is, super dated. Colorful rooms, which are really beautiful. Deck that's definitely probably got wood rot on it. Not a lot of pictures. If we compare our property, we're going to be looking pretty similar. We have a very similar front of the house to this house, very similar. And ours is actually a little bit bigger, probably up top. And then we have a kitchen that is pretty similar. Our kitchen's not super nice. This kitchen was not super nice. It's very enclosed. It's a little bit bigger than ours. It's a little bit better. Basically, it sold for 185, and it's very similar to ours. It sold 1 days on market, and it went for cash. So this is good for us, right? So we know that 3.2, we're a 3.2, 1,200 square feet, 3.2, 1,300 square feet, very close. Pictures, ours is a little bit worse than that one. That one sold in 1 day on market. I also know that this went binding in February. I know the market has changed a lot from February. So let me just go and show you this. This was February. So this is February right here. So we went way up. So, right. So for this price point, probably appreciated a little bit. So I feel like the appreciation that we've seen, and even though ours is worse condition, the appreciation we've seen probably makes 185 be about the price that it would sell for. So that's what I would do is I would call this one a market value of 185 based on this one comp that we saw. There's no other comps really in the area. This is the only good one that there is. And the fact that I can also look at this and know that it was listed for 209 and sold for 185 means that they probably just overpriced it and they took a quick offer. But we're definitely worse than this property. So 185 feels pretty confident. These are also getting fixed up where ours needs, maybe 40 grand worth of work. These are getting fixed up and selling for 240, which makes sense for the MLS. It's math, right? So anyways, now what we need to do is we need to plug this into the calculator so that we know exactly what we can offer the seller. So again, I built 2 calculators. If you want to use ARV, you can do that. It just works the same. Just enter in your ARV and enter in your repairs and then change your profits and then your months hold for this flipper. And then this will spit out your numbers. I just use the access calculator, which is what we do, which is what we use. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is that we are getting our price with our MLS strategy executed. And then our normal no access wholesale offer is basically if we were going to wholesale it or wholesale it. So this is how we create it. So let's say we call it 185 was our market value. That's what we need to do. Put it in. We want to make 30 grand on an access target profit. So if we are going to go MLS strategy, we want to make 30 grand. And then here's the cost for how much we want to make depending on the market value of the house if it's no access. So I want to make 50 grand on this house based on the price. And since I want to make 50 grand on this property for no access is going to affect all my numbers. So market price 185, You don't need to take any percent off the market value. Don't worry about that. We're going to take all the realtor fees out. So since we use a flat fee listing broker, it's just 3% for the buyer agent and then 0.25 for the broker for the flat fee service. We also pay $500 for them to list it. So that's like accumulation of MLS fees and all that kind of stuff. If you're listing with an agent, obviously change this to whatever your total commissions are going to be. Take that off the top. Then we take out all the rest of our fees. Just generally speaking, across the board, you can talk to other wholesalers, attorneys, flippers, whatever in the area, see how much closing costs are, take that all out. If there's any repairs, this is another scenario where let's say this 185 was the only comp we had and we realized it was going to take us a certain amount of repairs to get our property there. If that comp that I had mentioned, you know how I mentioned the appreciation basically was making our comp match the price of the comp we found for 185, then if that didn't exist, there was no appreciation, then I would probably discount, $20,000 in repairs to basically get our property to match the comp for 185. Does that make sense? Let me say that one more time. So if the 185 had if there was no appreciation from February, because now it's August, then I would not say that our house is worth 185. I would say that it's worth 185, but then we need to take repairs to get it to that 185 out of our market value. So that's where I put the repairs in. But we don't need that because for the scenario. Then it counts the interest. And this just basically goes off our lender's terms for if we're going to wholesale it. And then we calculate how many months we're going to be holding this property, which is 3. Now we come down to our MAOs that we have basically for this house. So if we were going to basically our first offer is going to be $81,745. That's the max we can do. We just want to do $40K lower than whatever our no access MAO is, so we can work up. And then from there, with our no access, we're going to work up to our MLS offer, which is 146. In this scenario, it's only 25K higher, and that's because it's a lower price point home. But nonetheless, we'll make 30K there. So that's the general gist, and that's how we know what we need to offer based on this calculator. Let's do another example. So we have one more. All right, so I have this property, and it is 3211 Blackfoot Lane in Rex, Georgia. We have a 1/4 mile radius to start with, and we're doing pendings and close 90 days. So let's pull it up. Let's see what we got. So I'm also going to get our property. The pictures pulled up right here. So here's our pictures that we have there loading, and then I'm going to pull it up on Zillow as well. So here's our pictures. Basically, we can see the front of this house, get a feel for it. It's pretty, needs some exterior work, needs to be cleaned up. It definitely is outdated inside. It's pretty close to move-in ready. Someone would just want to come in and probably spruce it up a little bit and do a deep cleaning, but that's generally the gist. Here is it on Zillow, 2.5, 1,400 square feet, built in 88. That's a big one right there. That's that. So let's take a look and see what we got. We got a 1/4 mile radius. Oh, this is our subject property. I don't know why it popped over to something else. Let me see if I can't get that to go over here. So for whatever reason, the criteria put the wrong one in. So for whatever reason, it's putting the wrong. Oh, there's the dot. The dot's in the right spot now. Okay. So we got a 1/4 mile radius here. So I'm going to zoom it out to 5.5 because we got nothing because that's our subject property that's pending. And so at a 1/2 mile with 90 days, we got nothing, no comps. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to 180. So open it up a little bit. So now let's see what we got. So we got a 3.2 over here. We don't want to cross any major highways if we don't have to. So let's stay in the neighborhood. It's a 3.3. So it's the 3.2.5 actually. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1 half. So it's built in 78. Ours is built in 88. So that matches the 10-year mark. This one has just been fully renovated. So you can see that this is just definitely updated, right? So it's nice and fully updated. So it sold 96 days in February for $225. So it doesn't look super great for us, but February we just looked at the data. Definitely seen a lot of appreciation since then. So let's go back a little bit further because I know we contracted this property a while ago. So I just want to go back a little bit further to see what my team was seeing when they locked it up. And I also just look at this property right now just for to add in. So it's not a comp from the build style. It's way different, but it is as is, which is a good sign, right? So this one sold in March and it sold 12 days on market. So let's go back because I just want to go back a little bit further so we can see something that's maybe a little bit more indicative to actually what we were comping a while ago. So we go to 240. Here's what we want to see. So we got a 3-1 over here. It looks like it's on a big plot of land. I can't quite tell. Yeah, it's on 4 acres, which definitely makes it harder to compare. So we don't really want to look at that. Then we have this other one down here, a 3-2, which this is a house that has 6 pictures that it's really crappy for. Basically, it looks like it has LVP flooring, but it looks pretty crappy still. Sold for 135. 12 days on market, it went conventional. So right now we still don't have very good comps, which means that this is definitely becoming a little bit more tough to understand what's actually happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back a little bit further. I'm going to go back to 360, which the reason I'm going to go back a year is because our market a year ago was pretty similar price point wise to what it is now. So there's still nothing. Go back to 180, and then I'm just going to increase my radius to 0.75. Okay. So I increased the radius and we found some other things that are selling. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to put in 3 bedrooms because I just want to make sure it's a 3-bedroom property, so that now all I see is 3s. So we can see that this seems like it to be a little bit nicer part of town over here on the park side on the other highways. This is across another highway that I will look at just because I want to see what we got going on over here. So this is the brick house. It's not going to be the best comp, but it is very as is, right? It's very as is. It's kind of quite similar to ours. So 1,200 square foot. It's built a little bit older than ours, so this gives us a good feel. It's also the same time period last year of what we're looking at. So 214 is a good one to have in the back pocket. Let's look at what else we got over here. If we got anything else backed up. So let's see what this 110 is, what that looks like. So this is like super bad. It's definitely a little bit bigger for 1,500 square foot. This is only one picture. So basically there's a pool. It's going to be a full gut if I had to guess, and it sold for 110. So full gut, we're not a full gut. I think this is probably the best. This 214 is the best comp from a condition standpoint. Now let's see if we can find something better from like a build style. So here's one that's 1,300 square foot. It looks like it was somewhat updated. It's definitely a lot cleaner than our house. So that definitely makes me feel not quite as good, but it sold in 7 days on market. And it definitely, since it was sold by Open Door, means it was definitely updated a little bit. So these are a couple things. So I'm still like feeling 200 is probably a little bit too high. So 215 feels a little high just because of this property being nice. Let's look at, see if there's anything else we got here. Well, that's pretty much it. So the way I feel is what I want to do is I'm going to go deeper into this property. So this is a brick house. So it's going to sell for a little bit more. So I don't like that. I actually think that our best house to go off of is going to be this one right here. I think this house, the pictures are really horrible, but it's just painted cabinets. They just clean the carpet. Everything's just kind of like rental ready. And if we look at our house, yes, it's different from the outside, but let's say we spent, this is like a slight exterior and a slight interior for 1,400 square feet. And let's go back to our comping sheet and figure out what that looks like. So if we need to do paint and carpet, which we probably do, it's 1,440 times 15, which is 21K in repairs. Plus I know the outside's probably going to be about $5,000. So I'm gonna say plus $5,000, and that's $2,660 in repairs. So that's how I'm gonna do this one, right? So I'm gonna say it's gonna take $27,000 in repairs. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna use this comp of 215, and I'm gonna say 215's value. I want to make 50K, 30K. Those are too good. Those are perfect. I'm gonna say my repairs are 26,600, and then that's gonna bring me down. You can just see this 215 minus 2660 is 188. So 188 is my actual market value. So you could put 188 here if you want, but I'm just going to put, actually, yeah, I will put 188 because it helps with the realtor fees. It makes the math the right way. So here's our MAOs: 149,700, 124,560, and then first offer max 85K basically. And I actually do think that this one, I'm looking at it right now, this one's pending for 185. So we said we'd sell for 188. I didn't even realize this till just now, but I thought I caught a glimpse of it. 185. But this is exactly how I'd come to that, and that's the math. It is under contract at 185. That's pretty funny. So 188 would be my number. We went under contract for 185. So pretty much would work perfectly in this scenario. So that's how I would run this. And then here's my offers to go about doing it. So the MAO, the reason it's so important is because you just have a number that you just feel confident in. When you have confidence in a number, you negotiate way harder and way more effectively. So you need to make sure that you're doing this, and always go into the phone call with a first offer max and an MAO at the very least, and if you're using the MLS strategy, make sure you use this calculator because it's very, very beneficial and it works really well. So basically, in closing, you should have every tool you need, including this folder that's filled with fire. Literally, I can't imagine anything else that you would need to get your first deal. And if there is something that's missing that you feel like you need, follow me on Instagram and then DM me personally. I'll send you something. Join our Facebook group, which will be linked down below, or comment on this video and I can send you more free content that will help you out. So take this video, take action, and good luck, and go make some money.